All right, so I've tried this video a number of times. The financial and point of sale system, you got to think about these libraries coming together in different ways and how these products come together. Because I have identified in an advanced transaction system 3 key processes that you want to have, and we for sure don't have the third one right now. The way we do the second one currently is very different than how I propose it. And we don't, some companies in part do this first part, but we're not thinking about these grids as a team really. So the first thing, I talked about the identity access management grid. Somewhere in my documents, I talk about specific ways of funneling together libraries. I think that's right here. I kind of have that example. And then I talk about some of these ways we can put GPS tags in a partition on one part of the drive, and then architectures are uniform in this way. And then identity and biometrics go in another specific partition. And so then you're only through the major market vertical do you get approved access for these resources. And that's why the Cyberforce lives in this major market vertical level. Okay? And so this is what actuates regulation in advanced industry, because now you can have, as I talked about, the identity access management grid, devices, software checks, and identities all part of that first layer in the identity access management grid. But understand that there are different pieces coming together there. And so one of those is you have your identity tag coming from this rotating algorithm. It's part of your identity access architecture. But really the second process, you go through, you say, hey, this identity has this device and they're using this software to make this transaction. And the thing says, and the device says, well, here's their identity, here's their security tag for their identity, that matches. Well, and I did that in the wrong order. So the first thing it needs to do is say, what kind of device? Is this device approved to be hitting the network? Does this device have the appropriate components in it? Is it an approved product? What are the configurations? And so it looks like that. Then it looks at the software being used in the transaction. And it says, how are these security keys coming together? Is this library, are the libraries approved in this software? Can this software, is this software, all the libraries and everything all approved to make this transaction? And then finally, if it's a yes there, then it says, okay, we've got this identity and we've got this tag that we know that we can trust because the device is trusted, the software is trusted, we can trust the identity and the tag. And so then it looks at the identity tag and the security key that's correlated to that identity tag based upon the identity product layer. And that's how you configure some of your security settings with Norton and McAfee, and the different companies work together on an algorithm that, you know, a consumer has a layer that they configure with how they set up their own security on their device with Norton or McAfee, or a baseline version that maybe defaults to the operating system level. And so maybe a lot of people are okay with just having their operating system level security. Maybe a lot of people want to have Norton and McAfee. Different ways of designing this marketplace. But again, if you talk about an overall plan like I have, you're positioned to talk about that on every level of protecting what's best for the free market and for how these infrastructures evolve. But we need every one of these pieces. And so then the last thing that we do, and we definitely don't have this right now, is the active plate architecture. And that's how you automate receipts. It's also how you automate inventory transfers between systems. And so now companies building warehouse management systems, they don't have to worry about building a giant cloud for inventory transfers between their customers. They can build that service into their products, but now there's a core architecture that the industry has worked together on, and that's also how we enable the accounting and the policing of product infringement, patent infringement, or product duplicates and things like that, product imitators in the marketplace. You need that active plate architecture for tracking and auditing and all of those related processes. And so we don't have that right now, but that will be a huge boost to business owners. Now they're on their identity product, they'll be able to funnel accounting things or transactions over to their identity product. And so I know I started out with this point of sale system level, and so I'm talking about the inventory transfers with active plate. And so I'm really talking about both of these architectures at once. And so I'm going to combine these two videos and the notes. Actually, the notes are extensive. So this video will be in 2 places. So if you've watched this video, you don't need to watch the next video down. But that is what's going on with this level of the architecture, is it's these 3 systems coming together, and that's why I highlight this transaction in this way. because you're checking the device, the software, and then the identity. And remember, you have a rotating identity system. I described that in the identity access management grid, and then a security tag that proves that that identity tag is real and trustworthy. And it's on a trustworthy device, trustworthy software. Identity is trustworthy for all of those settings. And then it looks at your identity product, and it says, and it makes the point of sale system makes a connection to your identity product. And this can really happen as part of the identity access management grid. All of the transactions will actually be happening within the identity access management grid technically, but it bounces around from different networks in its approval process as it's making one of these transactions. There's the identity access management grid, there are the accounts, and it can be useful to combine some of these cloud architectures when we're implementing these systems, just like it's also useful to organize in these ways managerially for operational excellence and defining ownership, areas of ownership of the excellence of the success of the overall endeavor. And so that's a more advanced way to work together. And the financial transaction systems are one part of that, point of sale. We have to think about the active plate for inventory transfers and for product policing in our economy. And that's also how we automate a lot of accounting and a lot of processes for business owners with corroborating work orders, with purchase orders, with having, like my stepdad has a business where he has his own inventory management system built for his business. And that would have been cheaper, probably half or less the price. I mean, because you have a giant database system that you tie into, and then you make products active in your inventory. And we work together on that as a universal product coding infrastructure. And there are different networks that can plug into that, and different ways you can give people sales benefits for being within your network, just like they do today. There are all ways of protecting that, and we definitely want to mobilize to protect the way we come together to have our business models which drive our market success. That's part of what having the free market is. And so this is a lot of abstract concepts, complex concepts coming together. And so I've talked about these two videos together. Thank you for watching. Or these two aspects of these major market verticals. It's actually three. Your identity access management grid, your identity products grid. It's more than that. Your financial point of sale grid, and your accounting UPC warehouse management grid. Again, you have UPC cloud and the accounting features and different related tables for inventory management right there in your UPC grid and those features. Then you have your point of sale systems and protecting the transaction integrity and how they work with identity products to get the transaction to go through, and the more advanced version of security, which is, I'm telling you, that model is the best version for security. And then finally, there is the active plate record system. They're tied together. You have your identity access management grid, which is checking these things. You have an identity products layer, which is tied to your financial grid. You can combine these things in different ways. That's why they are proposed addendums. But the point is that we want to be talking about coming together to define what success looks like and how others can collaborate such that it's not this behind closed doors thing that it kind of is right now. We want to open up the bid process and really collaborate on key layers such that we can have the best architectures. So that's the whole point here. And identity access management grid and Cyberforce is relevant. Identity products is relevant. That's how they will be linked to the financial accounting system, or I mean the financial transaction system and all the networks of bank accounts through the identity products, because we can build a stronger transactional model that way. And then finally, we have our active plate record system, which is tied to UPCs. And so you have to build this cloud for active plate, but you also need the UPC cloud to correlate the data and have the accounting features. And so that's part of that system. So these are very distinctly grouped for operational excellence branches of a government, advanced government. You consider this a continuation of a separation of powers into the modern age, and we actuate mutual respect in areas of expertise. But we also open that up such that it's not just people with college degrees. You can prove that you have relevant concepts, and we make this pitch alert system so it's easier for people to collaborate, easier for people to follow along with pitches, and then go so far as make this really cool way to bolster the tax program so that the government of the people, citizens that are really paying attention to the decisions we're making, boost their retirement as part of being a government of the people, because we have to make these decisions which have financial implications. So make that a part of your government of the people. Have there be a way of investing in, if you have a better way of building the wall solution, the companies that are building those models. I think that's a great pitch. I'm going to invest in that company. And maybe some of those companies don't want to be publicly traded companies. And so there are different ways of looking at it and how you manage that aspect of it. I understand that. But in more cases than not, it's going to be cool to have this way of bolstering people's retirement and working together in those ways. Now, what's the right amount of profit trade-off and all of this? You can monetize people being team players and driving the talent. It's a better way to drive talent in the workforce, for sure, if you incentivize following along like that. So I think we should go that far. Got a little sidetracked on that video. My apologies.